Good morning, class. Now, let's start our political science class. We are doing chapter 3, that is Politics of Planned Development. Today we will discuss about planning. In our last class, we have seen that there were very differences about the idea of development. Some were in support of socialist model, some were advocating capitalist model, and now India had to choose its own development strategy. One thing is clear, that despite the various differences, there was a consensus on one point, that development could not be left to private actors, and that there was the need for the government to develop a design or plan for development. In fact, the idea of planning as a process of rebuilding our economy earned a good deal of public support in 1940s and in 1950s all over the world. The experience of Great Depression in Europe and interwar destruction of Japan and Germany contributed to this consensus. Thus, the Planning Commission was not a sudden invention. It has a very interesting history. A section of the big industrialists got together in 1944 and drafted a joint proposal for setting up a planned economy in the country. It was called the Bombay Plan. The planned economy settled in 1944 is called Bombay Plan. The Bombay Plan wanted the state to take major initiatives in industrial and other economic investment. Thus, from left to right means communist and the capitalist ideologies, a person who are capitalist ideology are referred here left and right. So, the people of capitalist ideology and communist ideology both planning for development was the most obvious choice for the country after independence. Soon after independence, the Planning Commission came into being. The Prime Minister was its chairperson. It became the most influential and central machinery for deciding what path and strategy India would adopt for its development. Thus, Planning Commission came into existence. Do you know what is the new name of Planning Commission? Yes, in 2014, Planning Commission, the name of Planning Commission is replaced with Niti Aayog. Now the Planning Commission is known as Niti Aayog. Now we will discuss the early initiatives which were taken by our government just after independence. The Planning Commission of India opted for 5 years plan just like USSR. Government of India prepared a document that has a plan for all its income and expenditure for the next 5 years. Accordingly, the budget of the central and all the state government is divided into two parts. Non-plan budget, that is spent on routine item on a yearly basis, and plan budget, that is spent on a 5-year basis as per the properties fixed by the plan. A 5-year plan has the advantage of permitting the government to focus on the large picture and make long-term inventions in the economy. The draft of the first 5-year plan and then the actual plan document released in December 1951 generated a lot of excitement in the country. People from all walk of life like academics, journalists, government and private sector employees, industrialists, farmers, politicians, all discussed and debated the documents extensively. The excitement with planning reached its peak with the launching of second 5-year plan. In first 5-year plan, this discussion started and reached on its peak in second 5-year plan in 1956 and continued somewhat till the third 5-year plan in 1961. Means first 5-year plan was in 1952, the second 5-year plan is 1956 and the third 5-year plan is 1961. The fourth plan was due to start in 1966, but by this time the novelty of planning had declined considerably, and moreover India was facing acute economic crisis. The government decided to take a plan holiday, means a gap in plans. Though many criticism emerged both about the process and the priorities of these plans, the foundation of India's economic development was firmly in place by them. Now we will discuss what happened in first 5-year plan. So let's start our first 5-year plan. The first 5-year plan, that is from 1951 to 1956, sought to get the country's economy out of the cycle of poverty. Mr. K.N. Raj, who was a young economist involved in drafting first plan, argued that India should move slowly for the first 2 decades, as a fast rate of development might endanger our democracy. The first 5-year plan addressed mainly the agrarian sector, means agriculture sector, including investment in dams and irrigation, because irrigation is necessary for agriculture. So the focus was made on agriculture sector, and investment was also done in making of dams. Agriculture sector was hit hardest by partition and needed urgent attention. Huge allocations were made for large scale projects like the Bhakra Nangal Dam. The plan identified the pattern of land distribution in the country as the principal obstacle in the way of agricultural growth. The first 5-year plan focused on land reform as the key of the country's development. One of the basic aim of the planners were to raise the level of national income, because raising national income is also very necessary that time, which could be possible only if the people save more money than they spent. As the basic level of spending was very low in the 1950s, it could not be reduced anymore. Means already saving was very low. So the planners sought to push saving up. That too was difficult, as the total capital stock in the country was very low compared to the total number of employable people. But people's saving did rise in the first phase of the plan process until the end of the third 5-year plan. The rise was not as spectacular as was expected at the beginning of the first 5-year plan, but later, from the early 1960s till the early 1970s, the proportion of saving in the country actually dropped consistently. What was its reason? We will discuss in our next chapter, next topic. So, enough for today. We will discuss rapid industrialization in first 5-year plans. So go through your book, read the chapter carefully, and ask your doubt if you are having. Till then, bye.